You wake up when your body is ready. No alarm, no schedule, no place you need to be. For 99% of human history, this wasn't a hypothetical. This was every single morning for roughly 300,000 years. You open your eyes to an orange horizon. The air is crisp, biting, and entirely free of industrial smog. Your bed is a woven mat of soft grass and animal hides. Around you, the members of your tribe are beginning to stir. Someone kicks a dying ember, and a small puff of gray smoke rises into the acacia trees. You feel completely rested. You feel calm. You feel a deep, unbroken connection to the landscape around you. Then, your stomach growls. This is the exact moment your modern brain begins to panic. You look around for a kitchen, a refrigerator, or a convenience store. There are none. There is only raw wilderness stretching out to the horizon in every direction. If you want to eat today, you have to find it, track it, dig it up, or kill it. You might think you understand survival. You might think it is all about building a shelter from pine branches, lighting a fire with flint, and wrestling wolves. Modern survival television has taught you that nature is a hostile battlefield. It has convinced you that the wild is an enemy to be conquered with raw muscle and rugged individualism. But if you were dropped into the Pleistocene savannah tomorrow morning, those exact television shows would get you killed before sunset. The actual reality of the hunter-gatherer lifestyle challenges everything you believe about human work, health, and intelligence. In 1966, an anthropologist named Marshall Solins shocked the scientific community by introducing a radical concept. He called hunter-gatherers the original Affluent Society. Before his research, modern humans assumed that our prehistoric ancestors lived lives that were nasty, brutish, and short. We imagined them as starving cavemen constantly fleeing from saber-toothed cats. But Solins proved the exact opposite was true. Another researcher, Richard Borchet-Lee, spent years conducting a landmark study of the Jew/Honsi people in the Kalahari Desert during the 1960s. He discovered that these foragers only spent about 15 to 20 hours a week securing food. That is less than half the time of a standard modern work week. They did not have savings accounts, mortgages, or retirement plans. Yet they enjoyed more leisure time than any modern CEO. They spent their afternoons sleeping, playing games, and telling stories. They possessed an abundance of resources because their desires were simple and the environment was rich. Does that sound like an easy paradise? It shouldn't. Because while the workload was light, the entry requirement for this society was staggeringly high. You would fail the very first test. Let us look at your feet. Right now, your feet are soft, enclosed in cushioned shoes, and adapted to flat concrete pavements. The moment you step into the bush, the ground becomes an intricate maze of thorns, jagged volcanic rocks, and hidden burrows. An ancient human could sprint barefoot across this terrain without a second thought. Their feet were wide, calloused, and naturally shock-absorbed. Your feet would be blistered and bleeding within 2 hours. In the wild, a foot infection is not a minor inconvenience. It is a death sentence. It prevents you from keeping pace with the tribe, and if you cannot walk, you cannot survive. But let us assume your feet hold up. It is time to find breakfast. You look at the plants surrounding the camp. To your modern eyes, it is just a wall of green leaves and brown dirt. To an ancient human, that same wall of green was a highly detailed, interactive digital map. Consider the archaeological site of Ohalotas in Israel. This site dates back over 23,000 years, right to the height of the last ice age. When archaeologists excavated the camp, they found the remains of over 140,000 plant specimens. The ancient people living there were utilizing more than 140 different species of wild plants, nuts, and seeds. They knew exactly which leaf could cure a headache, which root contained clean water, and which tiny black berry would stop your heart in 10 minutes. Do you know the difference between a toxic hemlock root and a wild carrot? Can you identify which tubers are safe to dig up when their leaves have withered away? You do not know, because you have outsourced that knowledge to grocery store supply chains and government food inspectors. If you try to forage based on guesswork, your first meal will likely cause severe gastroenteritis, the inflammation of your stomach and intestines.
dehydrating your body until your organs fail. Now, look at the sky. The sun is climbing higher, and the temperature is skyrocketing. The tribe decides it is time to hunt. You imagine this involves high-speed chases, dramatic spear throwing, and cinematic battles with large beasts. It does not.
The most successful hunting strategy of early humans was something far more terrifying and exhausting. It is called persistence hunting. Human beings are not the fastest animals on the planet. A cheetah, a kudu, or a wild zebra can leave you in the dust instantly. But humans possess a biological superpower that no other mammal shares. We can sweat. Your body is covered in millions of eccrine sweat glands, and you lack thick body fur. This allows your brain to regulate your core temperature while running under a blazing sun. Most four-legged mammals cannot do this. They can only cool down by panting, which means they cannot cool down while sprinting. During a persistence hunt, an ancient human would select a target, such as a large antelope, and begin to jog after it. The animal would easily sprint away and disappear over the ridge. But the human would not stop. They would track the animal's footprints, maintaining a steady, relentless pace. Every time the antelope stopped to rest and cool down, the human would reappear over the hill. The animal, terrified, would sprint away again, unable to catch its breath. After 4 or 5 hours of this psychological torture under a 40-degree sun, the antelope's body would literally cook from the inside out. It would collapse from heat stroke, completely immobilized, allowing the hunter to walk up and end its life with a simple wooden tool. Could you run a half marathon through the scorching savanna heat right now? Could you read the faint, dusty indentation of a hoof print on hard clay while running at full speed? Anthropologist Louis Liebenberg has documented how indigenous trackers can look at a single mark in the dust and tell you the species of the animal, its sex, its physical health, how fast it was moving, and how many hours ago it passed by. It is a form of hyper-advanced calculus performed entirely without numbers. Your brain has lost the neural pathways required to process that visual data. You would lose the track within 50 meters, find yourself completely alone in a featureless desert, and succumb to fatal heat exhaustion before the sun went down. Let us look at what happens if the hunt is successful. You return to camp with meat. You expect to be praised as a heroic leader. You expect the tribe to bow down to your superior hunting skills. Instead, the elders look at your prize and yawn. They tell you the animal is small, lean, and barely worth the effort of carrying it back. They laugh at your spear technique. This behavior is not cruelty. It is a highly sophisticated social mechanism known as insulting the meat. Anthropologist Richard Lee documented this exact phenomenon among the Jew/Honsai. In a nomadic society where survival depends on absolute cooperation, arrogance is a deadly disease. If a successful hunter begins to think he is superior to the rest of the tribe, he might try to claim more food, more authority, or control over others. To prevent this, the tribe uses aggressive humility to keep everyone's ego firmly in check. They flatten your pride so that the food can be shared equally among everyone, including the sick, the old, and the unskillful. Could your modern ego handle that? We live in a culture designed around self-promotion, personal brands, and individual achievements. Your survival in the deep past would depend entirely on your ability to swallow your pride, accept public ridicule, and share your hard-earned food with people who did nothing to help you kill it. As the sun sets, the savanna transforms. The comfortable daytime wilderness becomes a pitch-black empire ruled by apex predators. You hear the low, resonant sawing sound of a leopard in the brush nearby. You hear the manic, echoing laugh of a spotted hyena pack assessing your camp's vulnerability. Without thick concrete walls, steel locks, and electric lights, you are suddenly reminded of your true place in the food chain. You are made of meat, and you are remarkably slow. Your only shield against the dark is fire. The fire must be watched every single minute of the night. If the flames die down, the perimeter shrinks, and the predators move in. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner conducted a fascinating study analyzing the difference between daytime conversations and nighttime conversations around hunter-gatherer campfires. She found that daytime talk is focused on economic matters, hunting strategies, and logistical complaints. But at night, when the fire is lit, the conversation transforms.
Over 80% of nighttime talk consists of storytelling, mythic histories, and complex social bonding. The campfire was the original internet. It was where human culture, morality, and empathy were forged. It was where early humans learned to trust people who were not their immediate biological siblings.
If you cannot contribute to that fire, if you do not know the oral histories, if you cannot sing the songs, if you cannot read the subtle social cues of the group, you become a liability. You become a stranger sitting in the dark. This brings us to the ultimate counterintuitive twist of human evolution. Many people believe that the transition from hunting and gathering to agriculture, which occurred around 10,000 years ago, was a massive leap forward for human well-being. We assume that settling down to farm crops made our lives safer, healthier, and easier. But the skeletal evidence tells a completely different story. When anthropologists examine the bones of early farmers compared to hunter-gatherers, they find a sudden, drastic decline in human health. The farmers were shorter. Their bones showed severe signs of nutritional deficiencies and repetitive stress injuries from bending over fields all day. Their teeth were riddled with cavities because of their carbohydrate-heavy diets, whereas hunter-gatherers rarely had tooth decay. Furthermore, living in close proximity to domesticated animals introduced deadly crowd diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza to the human species. Agriculture was a biological trap. It allowed humans to produce more calories per acre, which caused the population to explode. But it forced individual humans to work longer hours, eat a worse diet, and live in highly unequal, disease-ridden societies. The hunter-gatherers were healthier, stronger, more egalitarian, and lived more balanced lives than the generations of farmers who followed them. Yet, despite their superior health and abundant leisure time, you would still perish within 24 hours if you were dropped into their world. Why? Because the secret weapon of the hunter-gatherer was never physical strength, sharp teeth, or fast legs. It was their collective mind. It was a massive, decentralized database of survival knowledge that took 20 years of intense, daily immersion to fully download into a single human brain. You cannot find that database in a textbook or a video tutorial. It has to be lived. It has to be felt. We live in a world where we sit in padded chairs for 50 hours a week, looking at glowing screens, working jobs that feel increasingly detached from our biological reality. We experience high rates of anxiety, chronic back pain, and metabolic diseases. Then, we spend thousands of dollars trying to fix these modern afflictions. We buy organic ancestral diets, we pay for gym memberships to simulate primal movements, and we download mindfulness apps to help us reconnect with the present moment. We are desperately trying to recreate the exact physical state and community bond that our ancestors received entirely for free while sitting around a prehistoric fire. The fire is burning low now. The deep indigo sky is filled with thousands of bright stars that you have never seen from your brightly lit city apartment. You lie back down on your mat of grass, listening to the distant call of a hunting predator. Your body is tired from the tracking. Your ego is bruised from the teasing, but your mind feels remarkably quiet. You are safe, because you are surrounded by a tribe that knows exactly how to read the earth. You close your eyes and fall asleep as the embers fade to ash. You rest deeply, knowing exactly who you are, knowing exactly where you belong, and knowing that tomorrow you will wake up when your body is ready.